So this is going to be a walk around of Mike Jacobson's 78 Jeep. It's a model. It's an AMC Model 20 axle. So he wanted to go to a locking differential of some type, and I recommended a True Track. So there's the True Track. We reran the original gears. I took the, obviously took them out, re-bearinged everything. Took and set them right back in exactly where they were. The backlash with the old gears was 22 thousandths. Getting new bearings and everything back in it correctly made it the backlash back to a more reasonable 8 to 12. So let's see, what's the next thing to touch on? I mean, obviously cleanliness, cleaning these out is, we'll look at this first. Here's the rear cover. So you can see there's a, I'm not making that up either, that's the way I took it off. And you can see, I can't scrape it with, but that's like a paste of goo on there, and that was throughout the entire axle. I cleaned this axle, I took everything, all the mechanical parts out of it, and took this thing out and steam cleaned the death out of it, and then scrubbed it again internally with some wire wheels and stuff that I have for this, and got it clean. I mean, clean enough to eat off of is my mantra here. You can't build, something nice with crap. It has to be clean. So I just left that for the example. I'm gonna clean this off after, but I just wanted to show that for. I'm not certain, but I don't know if the rear cover's ever been off of this since it was built. Maybe, but it was a long time ago. The oil came out like black mayonnaise. Okay, so I welded the axle, the center section to the axle tubes, 7018 3/32 wire, about 95 amps, smooth as butter, cooked right around there. That'll be bulletproof. So let's see, we'll turn around here and we'll look. So he went with one piece replacement axles. We'll touch on the old axle system first, and then we'll move back to the axle. So there's the old taper axle. There's the hub that came off of that. And the backing plate. These are unique because the backing plate, no matter what you do, is trapped in between. The bearing does not pass through the backing plate, and that makes it unique in this world, in the modern world. This is basically a 1930s or a 40s design that stayed on longer in the Jeep than about anything else. So that's the short side, and you can see there's the axle bearing. There's the infamous knurl in the key that always fails. And there's the hub. There's the 1930s snap-on puller to get these things off. It was a maximum amount of effort and tonnage to get these off of that with that puller and some heat. And getting the axles out of the axle tubes was significant. It was a lot. So that's how that all stacked up. And actually over here, this is the whole mess of shims in the retainer plate that they had with that back in the day for that setup. So now, this is the Yukon single axle setup, one piece axle setup. And that setup has been around for these Model 20s for a long time, versions of it. And here's what they got going on. So that shows, I added the sealing because there's an inner axle seal that they don't depict here. So there's a spacer element that has to be machined to length. I've got still pictures of it, but on this one here I ended up taking 45 thousandths off the length of that to get the spacing right, so that the axle and the backing plate and all this stuff stacked up. It's all dependent on each other to be correct. So that's the way it is now. There's the actual bearing, there's the press-on wedding ring that retains it, that's the spacer element, and then there's the seal, and all that stuff lives between the back of the backing plate right there and about right here. So it's a busy little area there. Yeah, so that's about it, I guess, for this. I'm going to give that a scrubbing, and we'll get the cover back on it and get it back to Mike.